This episode takes a darker and more emotional turn, setting the tone for a major shift in the story. The tension within Fraser's Ridge continues to grow as divisions among the people become more serious. Jamie is placed under intense pressure as his leadership is questioned, forcing him to face a difficult and possibly painful decision. At the same time, Claire is going through a challenging emotional phase, and may find herself in a dangerous situation. The trust between Jamie and Claire is tested more than ever, hinting at cracks in their relationship. There are also strong signs that a betrayal could happen, possibly from someone close to them. The conflict is no longer just external, as internal struggles begin to pose an even greater threat. Meanwhile, the looming presence of war continues to build, adding urgency and tension to every decision being made. Overall, this episode serves as a major turning point, where relationships begin to shift and the future of the Ridge becomes uncertain. This episode continues to build on the emotional weight from previous events, pushing every character closer to their limits. The atmosphere at Fraser's Ridge becomes increasingly unstable as disagreements and mistrust spread among its people. Jamie finds himself caught in a position where every decision he makes could either protect his family or tear the community apart. Claire also faces growing emotional strain as she struggles to keep control in a situation that feels increasingly unpredictable. Her strength is tested, and she may be forced to deal with a situation that puts both her life and others in danger. This creates further distance between her and Jamie, even if neither of them intends for it to happen. There are strong hints that someone within their circle may not be entirely trustworthy, raising the possibility of betrayal that could change everything. As suspicion grows, alliances begin to feel fragile, and no one can be fully trusted. Outside threats continue to build as well, with the shadow of conflict growing larger over the Ridge. The sense of approaching danger creates urgency in every storyline, making even small decisions feel important. By the end of the episode, the consequences of these tensions begin to show clearly. Relationships are strained, trust is weakened, and the foundation of Fraser's Ridge feels less stable than ever before. The episode deepens the sense of instability at Fraser's Ridge as pressure builds from every direction. Jamie is forced to confront the reality that keeping peace may no longer be possible, and every choice he makes risks upsetting someone he cares about. His role as a leader becomes more complicated, as not everyone agrees with his decisions, and Claire continues to struggle emotionally as the situation around her becomes more dangerous and unpredictable. She tries to stay strong and focused, but the constant stress begins to take a toll on her. Her relationship with Jamie is tested not just by outside events, but also by the emotional distance that grows between them. Tension within the community reaches a point where even small disagreements can quickly escalate into serious conflict. People begin to take sides, and trust becomes harder to maintain. This creates an environment where misunderstandings and suspicion can easily lead to bigger problems. There are also signs that a hidden agenda may be at play, suggesting that someone could be working against Jamie and Claire from within. This possibility adds a layer of uncertainty to every interaction, as no one can be fully trusted anymore. Meanwhile, the threat of external conflict continues to loom in the background, reminding everyone that the situation could escalate at any moment. This pressure adds urgency to every decision and increases the emotional weight of each scene. By the end, it becomes clear that nothing will remain the same going forward. The balance of Fraser's Ridge has shifted, and the consequences of this episode will continue to affect everyone involved. Jamie's situation becomes even more complicated as he is forced to balance leadership, loyalty, and personal responsibility all at once. Every decision he makes carries consequences that could either protect Fraser's Ridge or push it further into chaos. He begins to realize that maintaining unity may no longer be possible, no matter how hard he tries. Claire's emotional journey deepens as she is pushed into moments of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Even though she is strong and experienced, the pressure around her begins to expose her vulnerability. She finds herself questioning not only the situation around her, but also the stability of the life she has built with Jamie. The divide among the people at the Ridge continues to grow, and tensions become more visible in everyday interactions. Small disagreements turn into larger conflicts, showing how fragile the peace has become. This growing instability makes it clear that Fraser's Ridge is heading toward a breaking point. Suspicion of betrayal continues to hang over the story, creating a sense of paranoia among the characters. Trust becomes a rare and valuable thing, and every relationship is put under pressure. The idea that someone close could be working against them makes the situation even more intense. As outside threats draw nearer, the sense of danger increases steadily throughout the episode. The characters are no longer just dealing with internal conflict, but also preparing for. By the end of the episode, the emotional and political damage is clear. The foundation of trust within the community has weakened, and Jamie and Claire are left facing an uncertain future, where nothing feels stable anymore. The episode continues to build emotional intensity, as Jamie is forced to carry the weight of leadership almost alone. He begins to understand that no matter what choice he makes, someone will be disappointed or hurt by it. This puts him in a constant state of conflict, where peace and stability feel harder to achieve with each passing moment. Claire's struggle becomes more internal as she tries to hold everything together while dealing with fear and emotional exhaustion. Even though she remains determined, the pressure around her starts to affect her ability to stay fully in control. Her connection with Jamie is still strong, but it is clearly being tested by everything happening around them. At Fraser's Ridge, relationships become increasingly strained as people begin to act out of fear rather than trust. Misunderstandings grow more common, and it becomes harder for anyone to stay neutral. The sense of unity that once held the community together feels like it is slowly breaking apart. The idea of betrayal becomes even more important as uncertainty spreads. People begin to question each other's intentions, and even small actions are viewed with suspicion. This creates a tense atmosphere, where trust is no longer guaranteed. Outside pressures continue to rise, reminding everyone that larger dangers are approaching. The characters are forced to prepare for challenges that could overwhelm them if they are not ready. This adds urgency to every decision made within the Ridge. By the end of the episode, it is clear that the situation has reached a critical point. Emotional bonds are strained, leadership is challenged, and the future of Fraser's Ridge feels more uncertain than ever before. Jamie's burden as a leader becomes even heavier as the episode progresses, and he is increasingly forced to make decisions that have no easy outcome. He starts to realize that protecting everyone may be impossible, and this realization adds emotional weight to every choice he faces. The pressure slowly builds on him, making his role more isolating than ever. Claire's journey continues to reflect emotional exhaustion, as she tries to remain steady in the middle of growing chaos. Even with her experience and strength, she is not immune to the fear and uncertainty surrounding her. Her relationship with Jamie remains important, but it is strained by the constant stress they are both. The community at Fraser's Ridge becomes more divided as fear begins to influence how people act and think. Trust breaks down further, and disagreements become more personal and intense. This shift creates a sense that the community is no longer functioning as a unified group. Rumors of betrayal continue to spread, making it difficult to know who is truly loyal. This suspicion affects every interaction, as characters begin to question the motives of those around them. It adds a layer of tension that runs throughout the episode. At the same time, external danger continues to grow, reminding everyone that their problems are not limited to internal conflict. The combination of outside pressure and internal instability creates a dangerous situation that feels close to collapse. By the end of the episode, everything feels unstable and unresolved. The characters are left in a fragile emotional and political state, with relationships strained and the future of Fraser's Ridge uncertain. Jamie's role becomes even more conflicted as he tries to hold Fraser's Ridge together while everything around him continues to fall apart. He is constantly forced to weigh the needs of the many against the needs of his own family, and this creates a deep internal struggle. Each decision feels heavier than the last, and the consequences begin to feel unavoidable. Claire's emotional state continues to decline under the pressure of constant uncertainty and danger. She still tries to stay composed, but it becomes increasingly difficult as events spiral beyond her control. Her bond with Jamie remains important, but it is tested by stress, fear, and the growing distance between them. The community becomes more fractured as fear and mistrust spread further. People begin to form smaller groups, and unity at Fraser's Ridge weakens significantly. This division makes it harder for anyone to maintain order or peace. The possibility of betrayal continues to cast a shadow over every interaction. No one is fully trusted anymore, and even loyal characters are viewed with suspicion. This creates an atmosphere where paranoia influences decisions and relationships. External threats continue to loom, adding constant pressure on the already unstable situation. The characters are forced to remain alert, knowing that any moment could bring further escalation. By the end of the episode, the emotional and structural stability of Fraser's Ridge is deeply shaken. The future feels uncertain, and every character is left dealing with the consequences of growing conflict and broken trust. Jamie reaches a point where leadership no longer feels like something he can fully control, but rather something he must endure. He is constantly pulled in different directions, and every attempt to restore balance seems to create new problems. This makes his position increasingly lonely, as fewer people fully understand the weight he is carrying. Claire continues to face emotional strain as she watches the situation worsen around her. She tries to act as a source of stability, but even she begins to feel overwhelmed by everything happening. Her inner strength is tested, and she is forced to confront the reality that not everything can be fixed. Fraser's Ridge becomes even more unstable as communication breaks down between different groups. Misunderstandings grow more frequent, and trust becomes almost impossible to rebuild quickly. The sense of unity that once defined the community is now fading. The idea of betrayal becomes more deeply rooted in the story, affecting how characters behave toward one another. Even small actions are interpreted as signs of disloyalty, creating a tense and unpredictable environment. This increases emotional pressure on everyone involved. Meanwhile, external danger continues to rise in the background, adding a constant sense of urgency. The characters are reminded that their problems are not only internal but also part of a much larger threat. By the end of the episode, it is clear that Fraser's Ridge is no longer stable. Relationships are strained, leadership is challenged, and the future remains uncertain as tensions continue to build. Jamie's struggle becomes more personal as he begins to feel the emotional cost of leadership in every decision he makes. He is no longer just trying to guide others, he is also trying to hold himself together under pressure. The weight of responsibility starts to affect his judgment, making every choice feel like a sacrifice. Claire's situation grows more intense as she tries to remain strong while everything around her becomes more unstable. She is constantly pushed into situations that test her patience, courage, and emotional resilience. Even though she continues to fight for stability, she is beginning to feel the limits of what she can control. The relationships within Fraser's Ridge continue to weaken as fear and uncertainty spread further. People are no longer confident in each other's intentions, and this lack of trust makes cooperation increasingly difficult. The community feels like it is slowly breaking into smaller, disconnected parts. Suspicion of betrayal becomes even stronger, affecting how characters interact in nearly every scene. Trust is no longer given freely, and everyone is forced to be more cautious. This creates a tense environment, where even loyal actions can be misunderstood. Outside pressures continue to build, adding another layer of danger to an already fragile situation. The sense of urgency grows as the possibility of larger conflict becomes more. By the end of the episode, Fraser's Ridge feels deeply fractured. Emotional bonds are strained, leadership is under pressure, and the future remains uncertain as the situation continues to spiral. Jamie's position continues to grow more difficult as he is forced to make choices that affect not only Fraser's Ridge, but also the people closest to him. He begins to realize that there is no perfect outcome anymore, only different levels of loss. This realization weighs heavily on him, and makes his leadership more emotionally draining than ever. Claire's experience becomes more exhausting as she is constantly pulled into crises that demand both emotional strength and quick thinking. She tries to maintain control, but the pressure around her continues to increase. Despite her resilience, she starts to feel the emotional toll of everything happening, especially as situations become more unpredictable. The divide within Fraser's Ridge deepens further as communication continues to break down. People struggle to understand one another, and small misunderstandings quickly escalate into bigger conflicts. The sense of community weakens as fear begins to shape decisions more than trust or reason. Suspicion of betrayal continues to grow, and it affects nearly every interaction. Characters begin to second-guess even those they once trusted completely. This constant doubt creates a tense atmosphere, where alliances feel fragile and uncertain. At the same time, external danger keeps building in the background, reminding everyone that their situation could become even more serious at any moment. This pressure forces the characters to remain constantly alert and on edge. By the end of the episode, Fraser's Ridge feels more divided and unstable than ever. Emotional strain, broken trust, and rising danger leave everyone in a fragile state, as the story moves toward an uncertain future.